And welcome back
Pod.
in to the Chris Mathis podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mathis, joined by my brother co-host, Spencer Mathis, right here for another crazy edition of the podcast. I know you guys checked out the Talk to Him Tuesday with Seth McCoy last week. We're going to be talking about who our next Talk to Him Tuesday guest will be later on in the show, or at least hopeful as to who that guest might be. But we'll have that here after we honor and select our Stooge of the Week. And I think that it's a consensus agreement here between Spence and I. Cam Newton is our Stooge of the Week for his comments that he made earlier this week on a podcast about women. Paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of, a woman for him is someone that caters to a man's needs, can cook, and also said that, can kind of let that man lead things in the relationship and in life. So Cam Newton, by far, a Stooge of the Week here. I'm not going to say that he competes with Urban Meyer's situations because Urban Meyer's won the award 4 or 5 times right here on the Chris Mathis podcast. But Cam Newton, who just lost, in my opinion, all chances of being an NFL quarterback, even as a backup moving forward. And we'll let Spence weigh in here on Cam Newton's comments from earlier this week. And if you're not sure as to what Cam said exactly, I'll tag a link down in the description for you guys to go check out a tweet with Cam's comments live on a podcast, and you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, the duo between Cam Newton and Urban Meyer would be an unstoppable football squad. Two guys that have great values, as you can see. Urban Meyer, family-centered kind of guy. Cam Newton definitely cares about women, and he showed it in his words this week that he had. But he's really only hurting his chances of becoming a quarterback in the NFL once more. It's been like 2 years since he's even been decent on the football field. And then off the field, now he's causing other problems. He knew that this was going to be brought up. I don't understand why he said it, and that's why he's the Stooge of the Week.
Yeah, when you saw Cam's comments, what was your first thought, Spence?
He was already getting blasted on Twitter. So, they basically form your opinion, of course, at the start. Then you watch the video, and you got to agree with what people were saying. It's definitely just not what you should be saying in his position or in any position at all, especially whenever you're looking for a job. You're a free agent. You're basically just not going to get an opportunity now because you're seen as a distraction if you continue to go on these random podcasts and talk about women, talk about whatever you feel you want to talk about. But you got to be talking about football if you want to get back onto the football field.
Yeah, Cam Newton again. Our consensus Stooge of the Week right here on the podcast, and we'll tag that link down in the description. You do not want to miss out on that because absolutely stupid on his part. And I know he's also had a couple of situations in the past regarding women. I don't know if you recall this, Spence, but 2 or 3 years ago, he was talking about women knowing routes in football.
Yeah, routes? Women don't know routes. They don't know how to run routes.
And at the time, I was thinking, wow, okay, that's a bit of a shot there. But now it all comes full circle, and you think, man, Cam Newton really is that guy.
Yeah.
Player of the Week here on the podcast, a positive player that's made a positive impact. More importantly, and more often than not, on the floor, on the field, on the ice. This week, this guy has done great things both on and off the field. And I'm talking about Rays' Brett Phillips, who is an outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. He probably plays about 50% of the time. Would you say that's a fair guesstimate, Spence, about playing time for this guy?
Well, he'll play whenever another team is starting a lefty pitcher. That's about the only time. It's either him or the new guy, Lowe in the outfield for Tampa Bay. So it's just depending on who the opposing pitcher is. Since Brett Phillips is a righty, he'll go against lefties, and that's the only time he starts. But he's pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt. He had a huge hit in the playoffs or in that World Series run 2 years ago, a walk-off to win the game. But Brett Phillips served as a relief pitcher earlier this week, had a lot of fun throwing some meatballs out there, threw one pitch that was 54 miles per hour, and then also had a 5-pitch 8th inning for the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, this is an outfielder that wears number 35. On top of that, he made a play from the mound in which he ran down a foul ball that 9 out of 10 pitchers do not make a catch on that play. And he did, of course, because he has that outfield talent, that outfield keen eye to chase down and track down a baseball, and had a lot of fun there, got the crowd involved, almost gave up a home run, and his outfielder made a huge catch right at the warning track, and he went out there and, gave him a thumbs up and whatnot. But more importantly, he spoke with a girl by the name of Chloe. Her name's Chloe Grimes. She's an 8-year-old cancer patient. She survived and beat cancer one time. She was just diagnosed once more with cancer for the second time at just 8 years old. And she talked with Brett Phillips before a game, I guess Monday night of this week, and was talking with Brett Phillips, and Brett Phillips was given a wristband that she wanted him to have, and a signed softball, saying, "Thank you so much for meeting up with me. You're my favorite player." And then during that very game, the Fox Sports here in Tampa Bay interviewed her in the stands. And while they're interviewing Chloe, the 8-year-old diehard Brett Phillips Tampa Bay Rays fan, about meeting Brett Phillips, he smacks a home run into right field that he says is the hardest hit ball of his Major League Baseball career, of his lifetime. Hit a home run, and it was truly special. Then after the game, they interview Brett Phillips, and he talks about what she did for him and how that home run was for Chloe Grimes, the 8-year-old cancer patient who just got diagnosed for the second time in her short life. And really, really cool to see Brett Phillips really enjoy the moment of not only being impactful on the field, but off the field too, being a positive impact on the younger generation, such as Chloe. And then on top of that, he says that he'll be teaming up to help out with Chloe's medical bills moving forward. So Brett Phillips, stand-up guy. And if you guys do not know Brett Phillips of the Tampa Bay Rays, whether you hate the Rays or not, you need to check out Brett Phillips. He's one of those guys that any fan of baseball should appreciate and look up to, because he really is a positive impact on any and everybody, especially the younger generations.
Yeah, on Monday night, he pitches 2 innings for the Rays, gets a guy to ground into a double play with 1 out after he let a fly ball to the warning track that was caught by Lau. And then the next night, which was Tuesday night, he hit a solo home run into right field while they were interviewing Chloe. And it was a hard hit ball. I mean, I thought it had gone further than what the StatCast said. The StatCast put it at 383 feet, but it looked a lot further than that. But it was to the short porch in Tampa Bay. But I mean, Brett Phillips definitely is deserving of this award. But I'm going to go with another Rays player who's leading the MLB right now in average and in hits. His name is Wander Franco. He's hitting .550. His batting average is .550 so far this season through 4 games. He has 20 at-bats, 11 hits, 4 RBIs, 3 doubles, and 1 triple, which he hit last night to put the Rays ahead. So this guy is a phenom, and I think he's gonna be up there for the MVP voting later on in this season. I mean, he might be a guy that ends up hitting around 400 at the end of the season. That's how good he is.
Yeah, people talked about him last year and the impact he was going to have on the team as a teenager. And now, obviously, I believe he was 19 when he first came to the league. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so here he is now, super young guy, and he's balling out. He looks like a veteran out there. He walks around the clubhouse like he is one of the leaders on the team. And, of course, he is, because he puts up those big numbers. He's a hard effort at all given times type guy. He works hard. He's quick. He's got power. He's got great contact. As you said, he's hoping to be a guy that hits around 400, even if he's within that ballpark. I mean, that's insane. You don't see 400 often. It's been years since we saw, and I mean years since we saw the last 400 average hitter in the major leagues. But Wander Franco, phenomenal player in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay finally has a true superstar. And within 5-6 years, he could be the best Ray of all time. So Wander Franco, a phenomenal player for Tampa Bay. I thought Brett Phillips was cool too, because he had great storylines off the field and was making a positive impact. And again, I hate to be one of those shows that talks about all Rays, but here on this week's Player of the Week, I think it was pretty clear 9 out of 10 podcasts, if they did a Player of the Week, they would pick those 2 guys as well. And I would put money on that, because these 2 guys were phenomenal in the first handful of Major League Baseball games this season. Now, another guy we'll be talking about here momentarily after we shout out our sponsor for the Big 3, informationondemand.net. We'll talk about Clayton Kershaw. We're also going to talk about our Major League Baseball awards for this 2022 season. So a lot of great things here on the podcast. And then Derek Carr just signed a new contract with the Raiders. It's a 3-year deal. We'll have more on that, our thoughts on Derek Carr's contract agreement, and also talking about a potential Talk to Him Tuesday guest here later on in the show. But of course, our big three brought to you by Information on Demand, informationondemand.net. They bring you guys pre-employment background screening services, offering fast, accurate, reliable background screening services, whether you need background checks, e-verify academic accreditations, or other screening services. They've got you covered. Check out informationondemand.net as they bring you guys the big three. Give them a call today, 855-914-4636, 855-914-4636, informationondemand.net. And they'll get you guys the information you need in just 8 hours or less. We talk about it week in and week out, just one night's sleep. If you do get your recommended 8 hours of sleep per night, I don't, but I don't need it, I feel like. But this team can do that. They can get you what you need in 8 hours or less. Information on demand, the big three. And we'll lead things off with Clayton Kershaw, who was pitching earlier today, threw 13 strikeouts, a perfect 7 innings on 80 pitches, and the Dodgers pulled him. Spence, I know that we're going to disagree here on the Dodgers' decision to pull Clayton Kershaw. So let's let you go first. I think you were on the news first, and I'll have you talk about, I mean, was it the right thing to do that the Dodgers pulled Clayton Kershaw moments away from potentially throwing a perfect game?
It was absolutely not the right thing to do for the Dodgers. Dusty Baker makes a terrible decision. There's no reason to pull Clayton Kershaw. I mean, he's pitched 7 perfect innings. A perfect game has only been thrown 20-something times in the entire time that the MLB has been around, which has been around 150 years almost. So the fact that you're going to pull Kershaw at 80 pitches with 13 strikeouts, no runs given up, a perfect game against the Twins, you're up 6-0. And you pull him with 80 pitches. I mean, I feel bad for Kershaw. I'm sure he's not excited about this, but he'll probably do a post-game interview and say that it was the right call, but it most definitely was not. I mean, there were 6 outs remaining in this game. Let Kershaw go until either he gets the last 6 outs or he gives up a hit or a walk. Let him have the opportunity at a perfect game.
I see what you're saying in that sense, but it was his first outing of the year. Clayton Kershaw, phenomenal pitcher. And as you said, he's trying to be the 24th perfect game pitcher, or the 24th perfect game in Major League Baseball history. But at the same time, if you throw Clayton Kershaw out there and get greedy with it, and as you said, they did have a nice safety blanket, 6-run lead. But still, what if Clayton got hurt, that next inning, the 8th inning, and you're thinking, man, we could have pulled him. We contemplated pulling Clayton, and we left him in, and here he is. He's getting hurt. And now the rest of your season is obviously the Dodgers. They're not too worried. But when you lose Clayton Kershaw, even with a stacked roster like the Dodgers have, it's still we would love to have him in the World Series run or in the playoff run that we're going to have later on the season. But he got hurt because we got greedy. We left him in an additional inning, this, that, the third. I don't know. I think it was a good decision to pull him because, as I said, if you lose Clayton Kershaw in his first outing, because you want him to throw a perfect game. And he's got plenty more opportunity this year. Obviously, it's not going to line up for another perfect game as easily as it did today, but he's still got more opportunity to go out there and throw a perfect game.
No shot. It's happened 24 times, like you just said, 24 times through almost 150 years, and you're going to pull him at 80 pitches. It is game 1, but who cares? I mean, he could have got hurt on pitch 79, pitch 5, pitch 20, pitch 81. He's at 80 pitches and you're going to pull him in a perfect game. I mean, that's an opportunity at breaking history, and you pull him in a perfect game with a 6-0 lead. Let him go out there, give up a hit, walk somebody, or get those 6 outs. I mean, I don't understand the point of it's okay to pull him in that situation.
Yeah, so in all situations, if you're the manager, you're leaving the guy in?
Yes, a perfect game. No, well, not every situation, obviously. I mean, he's at 80 pitches. 80 total pitches in the game.
Well, what was his pitch count that you would say, okay, let's pull him? He's got a perfect
100.
game going here, but it's too high. What's the number of pitches?
He's at 100 pitches and there's 6 outs remaining, I'm pulling him.
Okay. That's interesting. I think that most people will agree with you, but as I said, the first outing, it'd be different if this is midseason, in my opinion. But first outing,
you're not going to get it. He's not going to get another shot at this year. It's not going to happen.
Okay. There's my hot take right there. I know we didn't necessarily talk about hot takes in the pre-show prep, but there's my hot take. I think that Clayton Kershaw will throw a perfect game at some point this season. We'll come back to this interview or this podcast later on in the year, and I'm going to get my first real hot take correct because, as you said, there's only been 23 of them in Major League history, and I think Clayton Kershaw will do it because if he's going to do it first game, his first outing of the season, why couldn't he do it later on in the season when he's a little bit more warmed up, especially coming off of an MLB lockout where he probably wasn't throwing as much as he would have liked to. He probably was a little bit tight today and still had a great outing.
Because it's happened 24 times in MLB history. It's not going to happen again. I mean, the Dodgers have a better chance at winning the World Series without Kershaw than Kershaw going out there and throwing a perfect game. I mean, this was his opportunity. He hasn't done it, and that would have been it. He's at the end of he's nearing the end of his career. I mean, he's got to be like 35 by now.
I'm not going to argue that because the Dodgers do have a stacked lineup. I won't argue the whole lineup thing. I do think that they will be in the World Series, and we'll talk more on that here momentarily. But Clayton Kershaw pulled early. In fact, if you guys want to take part in our did they make the right move decision, we'll have a poll on Spotify. Scroll down to the bottom of your Spotify, and we'll have the two picks. The Dodgers made the right choice or the Dodgers screwed up and ruined potential history for Clayton Kershaw, who has been a phenomenal pitcher, except for in the postseason most of his career with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Speaking of awards and success, we're going to talk about our predictions for the Major League Baseball 2022 season. And we've got all things such as AL, NL MVPs, Cy Young winners, Rookie of the Years, Manager of the Years, who's going to win each, the AL and the NL, World Series winner and World Series MVP. And I'll be the first to admit, not super big in prior years with Major League Baseball. I do follow, especially when we hit that All-Star break and go forward. But this year, with my opportunity at iHeartRadio, I'm picking up Major League Baseball as if it's football, because you guys know football is by far my favorite sport. I'm going to work on Major League Baseball, and I think that I've done quite a bit of research here regarding these picks. So I'll lead the way here with AL MVP. I'm going with 30-year-old Mike Trout of the Los Angeles Angels. He's won 4 times, and I think that it feels like he's older than 30 years old. I know that he came into the league as a super young player. He's probably 18 when he got into the league, but it feels like he's older. I know he's battled some injuries here over the last couple of years, and his team struggles to make the playoffs. But I do think that they get it done this year, and I think, of course, Mike Trout has to be the guy to lead the way. They do have Shohei Ohtani. He's off to a slow start right now to start off this 2022 season, at least at the plate. So Mike Trout, my AL MVP pick for this season. My NL MVP pick, Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves. They didn't get rid of, but they lost Freddie Freeman. And Ronald Acuna knows what's at stake. He has to step up. They're coming off of a huge playoff run, a World Series championship after being down, and I believe they were under or just at 500 last year at the All-Star break. And here they are. If there's one guy that's going to be able to lead the Braves back to the promised land, it's Ronald Acuna Jr. He's a young superstar, and I've got him as my NL MVP here, early season picks.
Yeah, those are good choices. I mean, I think Acuna is going to be good after he comes back from injury. I think he's only going to miss the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. And for some reason in my head, I thought the Angels were in the National League. I don't understand why I thought that. Lack of sleep could be the fact there, but my AL MVP is going to be Wander Franco, the young phenom of the Tampa Bay Rays, a switch hitter. Very good as a righty at the plate, not as great as a lefty, but versus a lefty pitcher, he is one of the best hitters in the MLB. And then for the NL side, I've got Juan Soto, also a switch hitter. They have the advantage in every situation. Both of these guys are very good, very young stars, and I think both of them are going to lead their teams to the playoffs. But the thing with Mike Trout that sucks for him is his team is never really competing. I mean, they now have Shohei Ohtani, and they have Mike Trout. They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it this year either. There's just something with the Angels, and that may hinder the odds that Trout wins MVP.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they have to make a true playoff run, and if they do make that playoff run, it is Mike Trout. And I think that he's going to step up and really lead the way there for the Angels. Even with Ohtani, he's a superstar himself, but this is Mike Trout's year. I really do believe that. Now we'll move on to pitchers and Cy Young winners. I've got Shane Bieber of the Cleveland Guardians. He's a superstar pitcher, and I think he's going to get it done. NL Cy Young winner, I'm going to go with Zach Wheeler of the Phillies. You guys know him from the Mets a couple of years ago. He's a superstar, and I think that he'll win the NL Cy Young this year. That's Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, saying Cleveland Guardians feels a lot like saying Washington football team. I mean, I hate both of the names. Now I have to say Washington Commanders. I mean, I hate both of the names, the Commanders and the Guardians, but my AL Cy Young is going to be Shane McClanahan of the Tampa Bay Rays. I think he's going to be very good this season. His first game of the season, 7 strikeouts, 1 run given up. Didn't get the win because he didn't go the required 6 innings, but I think he's going to have a very good season. I think right now he's 5th in the AL Cy Young odds. And then the NL Cy Young, the guy that we were just talking about, Clayton Kershaw, he's not going to throw a perfect game. There's no shot at that. You may think he will, but there's no shot. I think that chance has been ruined by his manager. But I think he's going to win the NL Cy Young this year for the Dodgers.
My one complaint, obviously McClanahan is a beast, and he's great on the mound. Had a great first outing on opening day for the Tampa Bay Rays. But we know with Kevin Cash, they pull the pitcher 4 2/3 innings. It doesn't matter. And I don't think that this guy's going to go 6 2/3 frequently this season. And I think that'll weigh into Cy Young odds.
I think he's going to have to this season, though. We've already had 3 injuries at the reliever position. We're bringing up young guys from Durham. I mean, it's going to be difficult for these starters not to go far into the game, and I think Cash is going to have to let them.
Kevin Cash will have to make several smart decisions this year, again, with a lower payroll in the major leagues. Phenomenal manager over the last handful of years. And we saw it last year. We saw it the year before, in which they made a World Series run. I think I've got Kevin Cash, AL Manager of the Year. And I think that Wander Franco just makes it a lot easier for Kevin to win another Manager of the Year award there with the Tampa Bay Rays. My NL winner, Pirates, or correction, NL San Diego's Bob Melvin, because Fernando Tatis Jr. out until June. If the Padres, which they do have a pretty decent team, if they can make and stay, in talks for a playoff run or have a pretty solid first 3 or 4 months of the season without Fernando Tatis, I think that's huge. So,
yeah, I mean, I think Kevin Cash is basically the favorite right now to win the Manager of the Year in the American League, of course. So I've got Kevin Cash in the AL. And then the NL Manager of the Year, I'm going to go with an odd pick. I'm going to go with the Rockies manager, Bud Black. They're starting off 4-1 on the season. They were the worst team in baseball. They've been the worst team in baseball over the past couple of years. Them and the Pittsburgh Pirates, both of those teams have been poverty. So I've got Bud Black winning it for the Rockies this year in the NL side.
Also want to talk about our Rookie of the Year picks. Very early in the season, we'll touch back on this midseason, and then we'll come back at the end of the season after the awards are given out and admit if we're right and or wrong. But I've got Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals winning the AL Rookie of the Year. And then for the NL Rookie of the Year, Pirates shortstop O'Neal Cruz is off to a phenomenal start to his rookie season.
Yeah, well, in the AL, I've got Spencer Torkelson of the Tigers. I mean, he just hit his first home run today. He's number 2 right now in the race for AL Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to be a stud for the Tigers. I mean, they don't have very many good players, so it's going to be easy to shine on a shitty squad. And then in the NL, I'm going to go with the exact same kind of situation. The guy that you chose, O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates, I mean, they literally have nobody, and he's going to have to play great. And it's not going to be difficult if he plays great to be seen by the vast majority of MLB watchers, because it's kind of like being the best player on the worst team is better than being like a top 5 player on the best team. I mean, it's easier to be seen if you're the best player on the worst team than it is to be like a top 5 at your position, but you play for the Dodgers, you're not going to win it. So I'm going to go with NL Rookie of the Year, O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, great point there. Obviously, when you're a great player on a subpar team, you are the guy, and a lot of outsiders can look in and easily pick up on, hey, this dude's really good, or is his team and the guys around him, are they just that bad, or it's a combination of both? More likely, it is a combination of both. But AL champion, and then we'll also do our AL loser in the AL championship game. I've got the Rays winning the AL and the Angels losing. As I said, I've got Mike Trout winning the MVP. I think that in order to win an MVP, you have to make a serious playoff run. and they've got Ohtani. I think the Angels are there against the Rays and that AL championship game series, but the Rays win. And then for the NL, I've got Dodgers and Braves once more. I know it's hard to repeat as the Braves coming back and potentially trying to make a serious World Series run. Even if there were no Dodgers, even if the Dodgers were not stacked, I would not pick the Braves to repeat as champions because that just doesn't happen in baseball very often at all, if any. And again, the Dodgers are in the major leagues and they're stacked in all facets. If they lose two of their superstar players, whether it's at the plate or on the mound, I'm not worried. Like, I would still bet that they win a vast majority of their games. And the Los Angeles Dodgers, if they had never played the Rays 2 years ago in the World Series, I would pick the Dodgers to win the World Series this year. But with that being said, the Rays want to get it done this year. I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Rays to win it all. And there's going to have to be a lot of lucky bounces in their way, a lot of lucky ground balls here and there, a lot of lucky pitching decisions. Who knows, maybe even a guy by the name of Brett Phillips stepping up and coming in relief to strike out the side to save an arm here or there. But I've got the Rays and the Dodgers and the World Series. Give me Tampa. They have to do it. We saw this matchup 2 years ago. I don't think that the same team will win twice. And I think the Rays will get the job done against the Dodgers this year in October.
Yeah, in the AL, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays edging out the Houston Astros in the AL championship game. I mean, the Astros have been in the championship game 4 out of the last 5 years, and they are going to be there again this year. I mean, their team's almost the same. They're always a top squad. I've got the Rays beating them in the AL. The NL, I've got the San Francisco Giants versus the LA Dodgers, and I've got the Giants beating the Dodgers to go to the World Series versus the Tampa Bay Rays. So a Giants versus Rays World Series. That's Evan Longoria, the Giants third baseman, going back to Tampa to face his former team in the Tampa Bay Rays. And then in the World Series, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays beating the Giants 4-2, and the MVP of that is going to be Brandon Lau, the Tampa Bay Rays second baseman.
Ooh, wow. Sleeper pick because most guys are saying Wander Franco. I'm going with Randy Arozarena because of his playoff capabilities. The guy's got a wand. His bat is a wand. Yeah. He can do whatever he wants with a baseball, especially in the postseason. So I've got Randy Arozarena winning the World Series MVP here this 2022 season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, I'll be the first to admit I'm not super big on baseball, but this year I'm taking it very seriously. And we'll come back about the All-Star break and give an updated list and see how we stack up with how things had played up to the midway point of the season. But we have to talk about some NFL news before we close out the show, and then talk about who we're going to try to land for Talk to Him Tuesday next week. Big guest. You guys are probably familiar. You are familiar, especially if you're a listener of the Chris Mathis podcast, which you are because you're tuned in. But NFL news, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, has completely wiped all of his social media content that had anything to do with the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a very similar situation that Kyler Murray went through a few weeks ago. In fact, Kyler Murray had deleted his post of the Cardinals, taken the Cardinals out of his bio, and then it took 4 weeks for Kyler to repost all of those things and say, hey, there was nothing to it, no big deal. I was just cleansing my social media page. Well, the thing with Deebo Samuel, who's a superstar wide receiver, he's in his final year of his rookie deal. He had over 1,500 yards receiving last year, some rushing yards. I mean, the guy was insane for San Francisco last year, really put the team on his back, especially with Jimmy G at quarterback. But he's trying to get paid this year, especially with guys like Devontae Adams getting paid. Also, Stephon Diggs got paid with the Bills. He's trying to get that money, and one of his friends posted a photo with him on Instagram with something along the lines of, if it's not $25 million, we don't want to talk. And Deebo Samuel liked that post, and I'll tag it down in the description so you guys can see that post. But, I mean, come on. How do you feel about this whole social media trend with young athletes that are deleting stuff, trying to get the attention, and it works. We're talking about them here, right here on the podcast. But I think it's childish. I really do. And even if it does lead to them getting paid, what a joke.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of the Kyler Murray situation, but I think this one has a little bit more to it. I think that this could be a thing that forces the 49ers to lose Deebo Samuel here, because the 49ers did lose Mike McDaniels, their offensive coordinator, to the Dolphins. And if the Dolphins were able to land Deebo Samuel, my Lord, they would be insane. So I think that there's some weight to this argument here that Deebo Samuel is going to force his way out of San Fran. I mean, why would you really want to be there anymore either? I mean, I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. I think it's probably going to be Jimmy G as of right now, but Trey Lance didn't look too hot in his rookie season. Maybe he'll progress, but that offense is going to look a lot different with a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, on top of that, Jimmy G, he's going to be out for a little while. He had that shoulder surgery without approving it with a team doctor. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be Trey Lance for the first probably 4 to 6 weeks at least. And if Trey Lance wins the job or, looks great like we saw a few years ago with the 49ers in which Colin Kaepernick basically ran Alex Smith out of town, that could be the case once more. But Deebo Samuel, the latest wide receiver to add drama queen as a characteristic of a superstar wide receiver. And it's annoying.
Yeah.
It really is.
That Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick thing that you just said is the exact same situation. That was a good analogy. Exact same.
Yeah. And again, Alex Smith had a great season, took the team to the playoffs. I can't remember.
Same quarterback as, yeah.
And then Colin Kaepernick stepped in and had one good game in the playoffs. Alex Smith was ready to go. And hey, see you, buddy. Yeah. Obviously not to the same stature, the same degree, but it was kind of like Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady. Hey, sorry, Drew. Thanks for your time. Hey, sorry, Alex. We appreciate you, but it's the new guy, the young guns, opportunity to shine and take over the team. And that's probably what's going to happen with the 49ers this year. Trey Lance at quarterback, I'm not too sure about it. Deebo Samuel, if he really is worried about the money, I'd go elsewhere. I really would. I don't know if you're really wanting to sit there and ride through the kinks of a rookie quarterback, even though it's his second year, but technically a rookie quarterback in Trey Lance.
Yeah, and these receivers in the NFL right now hold all of the leverage. I mean, they're getting paid $20-something million per year. And even Russell Gage's contract with Tampa was way more than I expected Russell Gage to get paid. And he's a number 3 receiver on any team, maybe a number 2 at the best. He's a good receiver, but I think we paid him almost $15 million a year, just above it, which is insane. And then you look at Christian Kirk. His deal was $20 million. He's not a top 2 receiver on any squad either. And
with the Jaguars.
Yeah, and Deebo Samuel is a top receiver. He's a number 1 because he can do multiple different things. He's like a better Cordell Patterson. I think he's a stud, and I think he can force his way out of San Fran if he really wants to and get a big contract elsewhere. Maybe the Packers.
At that rate, I think I would force myself out. Honestly, yeah. I'm out of town if I'm Deebo Samuel. But the thing is, the 49ers, they might they're going to potentially trade him because their head coach Kyle Shanahan said that they're open to hearing all trade offers with any player. There's no player that's they're not willing to hear a trade offer from. So that includes Deebo Samuel. So who knows? Deebo might have just dug himself a hole if they trade him off to a bad team, or he just struck gold leaving 49ers.
Yeah.
And,
well, I feel like probably the scenario that's going to happen with this is Deebo's going to be stuck in San Fran next season regardless. This probably isn't going to go anywhere, but if it does, I mean, Deebo Samuel, there's an opportunity he forces his way out if he's a big asshole to Shanahan.
Let's talk about one guy that forced his way out of Cleveland, quarterback Baker Mayfield, who, talked about, hey, I'm out of here. I request a trade, this, that, and the third. He says, I feel disrespected, and obviously I would be too, because they looked at Deshaun Watson. They landed Deshaun Watson there in Cleveland. Bye-bye, Baker. He's had an issue there with injuries and hasn't been consistent whatsoever. But Baker Mayfield took to a podcast early on Wednesday afternoon and says that he feels disrespected 100% because he was told one thing and they completely did another. He's talking about the Browns organization. He said, that's what I'm in the middle of right now. I've had 4 different head coaches in 4 years and a bunch of different offensive coordinators. So he does have a good point there, but I mean, come on. Obviously, you feel disrespected. On top of this, his teammates have not stood up for him whatsoever. I've not heard of one player for the Browns that stood up for Baker Mayfield and said, hey, I believe in this guy. He's our quarterback. I love the guy. Even if they know he's gone, which he obviously is, Deshaun Watson's now the quarterback, there's been no support of Baker Mayfield there out of Cleveland.
Yeah, you said it best. Bye-bye, Baker. Where do chefs go? They go to Seattle because Russell Wilson was cooking in Seattle for 10 years almost. I think Baker Mayfield screwed himself. He's going to end up in Seattle. And Seattle might not have Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, because they're probably going to trade one of those two. Maybe they'll draft a receiver in the draft. But I feel like Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf is going to be on the move this offseason. I don't think they're going to want to play for Drew Lock. Baker Mayfield's a bit of an upgrade from Drew Lock. He's like a tier above Drew Lock at this point, coming off a shoulder injury. He looked really bad last season. He wanted to play even though he shouldn't have. He played, didn't do good. Now he's out of Cleveland.
It's funny that you bring up the Seahawks. We've talked about this for weeks here on the podcast, but Baker also said on that very podcast episode that the Seahawks are his most likely option in terms of his next team. So,
yeah,
stars
which
are
is
aligning.
weird. You usually don't see an NFL player tell you where they're going to possibly end up. He also said something about how 2 weeks ago, if they would have asked him the same question, he would have said the Colts. So if I'm the Colts, I'm definitely taking Matt Ryan over Baker Mayfield. That was a good choice at this point because the Colts window is closing very quickly. So they've got to go with a guy that's experienced, that has an opportunity to win them a couple of playoff games. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, of course. They're in a very tough division, but I think that was a good choice by the Colts. Baker Mayfield's going to be stuck in Seattle, is what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it was also a easy process of elimination. Baker Mayfield had probably 4 teams written down, and he's like, re-sign with the Browns. Nope, they got Deshaun. Cross that out. Colts, Matt Ryan. Cross that out. Down to the last 2. I'm trying to think here. What was the other maybe second option?
And it reminds me of the Forrest Gump scene. Seats taken. Sorry, seats taken. That's every team. I mean, Baker Mayfield's not a bad quarterback. He's probably top 15. There's not a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He's got upside. I mean, he's got charisma. He's got swagger. He had it in his rookie season with the shitty Cleveland Browns. So there's an upside to Baker Mayfield. But a team that's in their window to go win a Super Bowl right now is not going to sign Baker Mayfield. We've seen that. And all of the good positions have been signed. I mean, there's no Colts anymore. The Browns were taken, Baker Mayfield's old team. There's no good teams left needing a real quarterback that's not a young guy.
Let's talk about a quarterback that did get paid. Derek Carr just signed a 3-year, $121.5 million contract to remain as quarterback of the Raiders, which there was a lot of talk if this guy is going to be the franchise quarterback. Obviously, he's a top, in my opinion, a top 12 guy, top 10.
Top 10, yeah.
But there's a lot of Raider fans even that have kind of questioned Derek Carr and his ability to lead the team for multiple years. And I think this past year, he obviously took a step in the right direction. He's 31 years old and just landed his best friend from college, insane wide receiver, arguably the best receiver in the league, Davante Adams. And even after this contract runs out, he'll just be 34 years old. So there's still a shot of him to land another huge contract in the league after this 3-year deal's up.
Yeah, and NFL fans always think the grass is greener on the other side, but Derek Carr's a very good quarterback. He's worth the 3 years, $125 million. They just got a great receiver in Davante Adams. They already have Hunter Renfrow. They've got a great tight end. They've got Josh Jacobs at running back. I mean, they've got a good squad. They're in the toughest division in football, hands down. They're going against the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers. It's going to be tough for them, but that's a great team, and I think Derek Carr's the quarterback. Because if you're a Raiders fan and you don't want Derek Carr, your other option is Baker Mayfield. So great re-sign by the Raiders. They've got 3 more years of Derek Carr in his prime, the 30s. At the end of this contract, he'll be nearing the end of his career. Probably not every quarterback plays to 45 like Tom Brady. But I think this was a very good choice for the Raiders to keep Derek Carr for 3 more years on that squad.
Yeah, again, they're so close to being a serious contender, and obviously they feel very confident in the fact that they just signed Davante Adams, who, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in the league until Cooper Kupp does it, 2 or 3 more years consecutively. But in terms of pure talent, route running, finesse, Davante Adams by far the best receiver, and that's why he got paid. And obviously, they couldn't come to an agreement in Green Bay, but he was willing to move on from Aaron Rodgers. So he feels pretty confident that Derek Carr is a great quarterback, not only at Fresno State, but also in the NFL with the Raiders. Yeah,
and that's a good sign for Davante Adams, who just trusted signing with the Raiders, not knowing if Carr would be back in 2 years. I think Carr was there regardless this upcoming season, but having Davante Adams and Derek Carr as your duo for the next 3 years, I think their contracts are probably going to end up expiring around the same time, maybe a year apart, but shoring up that connection for 3 years is going to be fun to watch with the Raiders in Vegas.
Now we're talking about NFL, 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. And in fact, to kind of kick off some NFL draft coverage right here in the podcast, we're going to be doing our mock top 10 next week right here on the podcast. Do not miss it. It'll be out on either Thursday or Friday. Check all the socials at TCM_pod and check the links in the bio. But I'm thinking with the NFL draft coming up, we've got to reach out, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Spence. Joseph Mancuso, I think we should hear what he's up to. He's the quarterback of the Richmond Spiders. He's getting ready for the NFL draft, hopefully. If not, I know that he's working on potentially going to a team in the NFL, and we'll find out more here in the next 2.5, 3 weeks. But that's who we're attempting to get here right here in the podcast this upcoming Tuesday. Joseph Mancuso, if you guys missed out on that last interview that we did with him, it was phenomenal, from all things high school football to his journey, playing 6 years with the Richmond Spiders, having a phenomenal 2 or 3 year run there in the latter years of his career at Richmond, and having his name thrown around in the NFL draft, especially in a year like this where there's not really a handful of superstar quarterbacks. Joe Mancuso could most definitely be a late round draft pick in the NFL draft this season. And we'll talk with Joe. That's the plan. So keep up with us. I'll keep you guys posted. As soon as I find out, I'll post on social media to let everybody know. But Joseph Mancuso, talk to him on Tuesday, this upcoming week on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and or YouTube. Any final thoughts, Spence, regarding throw something out there.
That's a great choice for the pod, and that's a great choice for any NFL team needing a quarterback. And I think Joseph Mancuso will be a very good backup quarterback for his first couple of years and have an opportunity to take the job from somebody later on. I think Joseph Mancuso would be a great option for a team like the Indianapolis Colts, who have Matt Ryan for the next 2 to 3 years, and then they're going to have to move on from him. Maybe Joe Mancuso ends up in Indy.
That'd be a lot of fun. We'll find out. We'll talk with Joe unless something changes. That's what we're going to do. We're going to say we're talking to Joe on Tuesday right here in the podcast. If something changes or if you hear otherwise, obviously it didn't work out. But that's the plan. As always, thanks for tuning in to the Chris Mathis podcast. Check the description down below for all the links to any things we referenced here on the show. And, of course, that interview we had with Joe, I guess 2 months ago right here on the podcast as we talked about his college football career. But that'll do it. Spence, final comments?
Bye-bye, Baker.